This week on the Swearwolves, David and I continue where we left off last week by discussing the 2019 film It, Chapter 2.
We'll begin with a reign of terror. A few murders here and there.
Welcome back to the Swearwolves. I'm Bret.
I'm David.
David.
Yes, Bret.
Previously on the Swearwolves. Dick joke. Dick joke. Dick joke.
Dick joke.
Fart joke.
Poop. Dick,
Swearing.
Dick, fart, poop. Swearing.
Non
Profanity.
sequiturs. And then we
Anecdotes.
talked about It, Chapter 1.
Yes.
Now, this week, we are doing It, Chapter 2.
Back for more.
Back for more. It's a different week. It's different guys. Different shirts. Same guys, different shirts.
A week has passed.
God, has it been a week already?
It doesn't feel that long at all. It feels like mere minutes.
So why don't we just jump right into this? This is the continuation of our last week's episode. I hope you're doing well, my friend. I know you are because I just talked to you. If you haven't listened to our last week's episode, guess what? You don't have to. Just listen to this one. It Chapter 2 came out in 2019.
So long ago.
September 6th, 2019. David, what was the number one movie in the box office?
This movie.
You are correct. It Chapter 2 was the number one movie in the box office. I don't know if I saw this in the theater.
I did not. In fact, I have only seen this movie once, and it was yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was my first time seeing it.
Okay, so as much as you liked it, you said it's one of your favorite movies. You love watching it. You
I didn't say it was one of my favorite movies. I just
you
really
gave it
liked
4.5 heads.
Oh, yeah.
You said you
But
loved
I didn't
this movie.
vocalize like this is one of my favorite movies.
You said you love this movie.
I do love that. It's a
Okay.
very good movie.
You had no interest to see the second one.
I actually did want to see it, but I remember when it came out, like reviews seemed like they were kind of and I also knew it was going to be really, really long. And it also, like, I think I just had some stuff going on. I was like, I'll see it when it comes out, like on streaming or whatever. And then I think I recorded it off of HBO or something one night, and I started to watch it. So I actually saw like the first 10 minutes or so. And it was one of those things where it was like, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, am I really going to stay up
Till 2?
like 2 in the morning watching this? Probably not. And I shut it off, and then I just never got back to it.
Okay. Well, I
did
find
want
that,
to see it.
I find that interesting. I, too, loved the first one. Not as much as you. It's one of your favorite movies of all time. But I, too, loved the first one, and I was like, meh, I'll wait for the second one. It's like, what? I don't know. I don't know if I did it for the same reasons, but I was just like, meh.
Yeah, I just never got around to it.
Yeah.
And it's so long. Like, I started watching last night. I just finished about 5 minutes ago.
Yes, it is long. We'll get to the stats on that in a second. What was the number one song the weekend that this movie came out?
So much pressure.
Let's see if you
Can I
go 2 for
can I
2.
go
You
2
could.
for 2?
You could. It's a popular song.
Okay, and I picked a popular song that had legs. I picked Old Town Road by Lil Nas X.
You are 100% wrong.
Damn it. I thought I did it.
No. Truth Hurts by Lizzo.
Okay.
I just took a DNA test, and it turns out I'm 100% that bitch,
Wasn't
David.
that, did we have that song before?
Probably. It's a popular song.
It's a good song. Yeah, I like Lizzo.
I listened to it today.
Did you?
Yeah. It's good. I like Lizzo also. Written by Gary Dauberman, who was one of the writers of the first one.
Oh, they just brought back one. The other two?
Well,
like,
I think
fuck
what
you
happened
guys.
was we had talked about in the first episode, or in the previous episode, how there was multiple iterations of that script. I think this Gary Dauberman took one of those and had to give credit to the other guys who wrote it.
because it had pieces that they had contributed
Yes.
to?
I think so.
That makes sense.
This, again, is based on the novel by Stephen King. Directed by our favorite Italian, Andy Muschietti. With music by Benjamin Wallfish. Big mouth Billy Bass.
Billy Bass himself. Yeah.
We're produced by Barbara Muschietti.
Oh, wow.
And he's like,
Family's there.
hey, Babs, get over here. This is
Get
my
over here."
wife. She's going to produce this movie.
She's going to produce the fuck out of it.
Yeah, I produce it. I produce it for you, Andy.
Andy, yeah, anything for Andy.
Oh, Andy, thank you for getting me this job. She's smacking on gum.
Andrew. It's
What
Andy.
what does a producer do exactly?
I want to take care of the finances.
Also helping out with the production was Dan Lin and Roy Lee. I need some help over here. Can you hire a couple guys?
Yeah, all right.
Anything for you, Toots. You're one hot mama jimma. This movie stars Jessica Chastain as Beverly Marsh, James McAvoy as Bill Denbrough. I won't go through their last names. Who cares? Bill Hader as Richie, Isaiah Mustafa as Mike, Jay Ryan as Ben, James Ransone as Eddie, Andy Bean as Stan, and Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. The runtime of this movie, David, you said it. It's a long one. 169 minutes.
God
almost
damn.
3 hours. Budget of $79 million. So what was the budget of the first one?
40? Was it? Like
40 million. So double the budget. What was the box office?
Well, I was wrong on the last one. I think I said 500 million, and it was like, what, 750 million?
No, just 700.
Okay, so I'm gonna be smarter this time. I'm gonna go 450.
Oh, yeah, I'll give it to you. 473.
Ooh, wow, nice.
But between the two of them, over $1 billion.
Damn.
I think I read it's the highest grossing movie franchise
As far as like R-rated films go.
as far as horror movies go.
Okay, that makes sense.
But we'll find out more.
Just facts. Just facts. Just facts, man.
All right, these are the facts, David. And a few of these are going to spoil stuff that happens in the movie, but I don't give a fuck. All right.
Yeah, the hell with it. We're gonna spoil it
Oh,
anyway.
something that annoyed the shit out of me was the first one. During a flashback to the summer of 1989, there's arcade cabinets. Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2 are seen.
What? No, they weren't.
Yeah.
Were they?
Yeah, there was a Mortal Kombat. I saw the Mortal Kombat. Definitely I saw.
I did not see that. That's an anachronism.
Yeah. The Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat did not come out till 1992.
92?
Yeah.
There was
I
a
saw-
Street Fighter 1.
They had Street Fighter, and I was fine because that game came out in 87, I think. But fucking that's the one they were playing, but on the
That's funny. I
end
did not notice Mortal Kombat.
on the end is Mortal Kombat. I was so irritated.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Otherwise, I would have caught that too. I'd have been like, wait a second.
In the novel, I know we're not going to talk about the book too much, but in the novel, well, actually we will. Eddie ponders that he may have married Myra because she reminded him of his mother. In the film, the same actress who played his mom plays his wife.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, you didn't catch that?
I didn't catch that, but I did notice, obviously. I was like, oh, he married someone just like his mom.
Yeah, he did.
That's funny.
And it was his mom. Let's see. A license plate on the wall above the owner of the antique shop is CQB 241, which is the same license plate as Christine.
Oh. And
Which-
the owner of the shop.
The owner of the shop is played by
we'll talk about
Stephen
him.
King.
Yeah.
Yep. He asks for $300 for the bike, which is the same amount of money that George LeBay pays for Christine.
Ah. That's cool.
The Young Losers Club actors were all de-aged in the film. The first time ever in a horror film.
I was curious how they pulled that off. I was like, did they film?
Did they
some of
pull it
this?
off, David? Did they?
I mean, it looked a little like a filter.
It looked like a Snapchat filter.
It did a little bit.
We'll talk about that.
But I thought maybe they just applied that filter because it was like a flashback.
With It and this film, It Chapter 2, the It movie franchise has made over $1 billion worldwide, making it one of the most successful horror franchises of all time. Okay, so not the most.
Yeah. It's probably Halloween or something.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. The original Stephen King novel is 1,138 pages. This film is the 47th Stephen King film adaptation.
Wow.
Just the fact that this motherfucker has written over 47 things. He's written like 80 novels.
Yeah, he's got to be loaded.
Well, not even just loaded. He's got to like just, come on, dude. Like maybe take a break.
He's very prolific.
You got to be tired. It took him like, I don't know, I should have looked this up, but I remember hearing it took him like 5 years to write it.
Yeah, well, he'll rest when he's dead.
I guess. Brandon Crane. He was the young Ben from the original 1990 miniseries, It.
Okay.
He makes a cameo as a businessman on the video call.
That's funny.
To the current older Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of funny. And then the last one that I thought was most apropos to the Swearwolves podcast, the film uses the word fuck 108 times.
Ooh, nice. Let's see if we can beat it.
Well, fuck. Where'd we last leave off? The losers were all gathered around,
They made a
bleeding on
blood
each other.
pact. Yeah, they said they'll come back if It comes back.
Yeah.
And Bev and Bill
Kissed.
the passionate kiss.
Yeah. And Henry Bowers was thrown down to the bottom of a well, presumably dead.
Right.
After he killed his dad and tried to kill the losers. All right. So listen, people, this movie, they didn't know they were going to make this movie. So as I talked about, they had to do some de-aging. There's some flashback scenes that weren't filmed when the original movie. If you had some foresight, if you had the budget, maybe they didn't have the budget, right? But
Just film that stuff ahead of time and
you
just
should have
have
filmed
it in
that
the
stuff
can.
ahead of time, because now it's been 2 years since you last seen these actors. What do we know about children, David?
They get older.
And 2 years
They
is
grow
like
up too damn fast.
2 years. They look like different fucking people sometimes, especially when you're like 12 to like all of a sudden 14 or 13 to 15.
Well, even with the de-aging, I thought some of them still looked older.
Well, yeah, and then Eddie's voice they had to like pitch up,
Oh, that's funny.
and it's overdubbed, and you can tell. And Ben, the fat kid, he's taller, and he's chubby still, but he's not as.
He was the one that I thought looked the most different.
Yeah, he looked more like a man. He's like, hey, Bev.
What's going on, Bev?
I got pubes.
poetry? You want to hear some New Kids on the Block?
Yeah. So, you know, some of them look the same, but for the most part, those particular ones, Eddie, and the kid from Stranger Things, they kind of scrunched up his face a little bit, and I don't know what they did.
See, I wasn't as observant as you. I didn't quite pick up
Did
on
you watch
that. I just thought it looked... I thought they were using a filter or something.
Did you watch these movies back to back?
Like a day apart.
Okay. I feel like if you watch these movies, I didn't watch them back to back, but I did watch them a day apart also. So they were fresh in my mind, and I was like, dude, something's wrong
Wait
here.
a second.
But anyway. Okay, so it's 27 years after the events. It's current time, basically. It's 2016. And Derry, Maine is having a
It's like a
carnival.
Yeah.
And there's this dude, and he's shooting, like, you know, he shoot a water gun, fill up a
In a clown's mouth or whatever, or
Yeah.
something like that.
balloon, fills with air. The first one
yeah.
pops, gets a fucking...
Wins some sort of shitty prize.
Yeah. This dude wins. It beats out all these little kids. There's a little girl next to him. He ends up handing her the thing. And then his boyfriend comes over.
And gives him a kiss, I think, right?
Yep. Kiss, little pat on the pecker. And they...
a peck. A peck on the cheek.
or a pat on the pecker, whatever. And there's some of these fucking hillbilly bullies.
They're
like kids. They're like teenagers.
one of them, the one that's like the most vocal. I was like, that kid's like 12 or
Yeah,
13.
his balls haven't even dropped
yeah,
yet.
and he's hanging out with these like much. The other ones looked a lot older.
Yeah, that's how hillbilly bullies are. And they're like, we don't want no gay people around here, or some form of that. You can imagine what slur they used. And they proceed to fucking kill this guy.
Yeah, like they beat the shit out of him and then toss him like off of a bridge
Yeah.
into the river.
Like, I mean, I know that happens. Like, I'm not like...
It's awful.
But it's awful. It's very jarring to watch, and it's very like disturbing.
Yeah, It's a hate crime.
Yeah, and
Fuck.
I hate it.
Yeah.
So his boyfriend, who is left alive,
And he's like, no.
runs after him and goes down there and sees that he's like washed up on the shore, but Pennywise has him. And
Yeah, and
Pennywise,
he's like, what the fuck?
yeah, Pennywise eats him.
Eats his heart out. Like, like sprouts his teeth like he did with Georgie, and then like goes right at his heart.
Yep. And then a
Gross.
bunch of red balloons appear everywhere, and this guy's like fucking confused.
Yeah.
And-
That's what I would be as well. What the hell's going on here?
And that's it. That's the beginning of the movie. So, okay, so a couple of things about this. Like, it doesn't only prey on children.
Yeah.
And
That was my first reaction too. It's like, that guy was too old. But yeah, I guess he doesn't discriminate when it comes to when he's hungry.
no, and it doesn't. I mean, maybe it does still prey on fear. They weren't necessarily afraid of it. They were just scared.
Yeah.
Like he's scared
Yeah,
for
that's
his
the way I
life.
took it. Like they were afraid
Of their life, right?
Yeah.
Because they were attacked by these bullies. Okay. Mike Hanlon.
Yeah. He's like the only guy that stayed behind. He's still in Derry 27 years later. And does he listen to like a police scanner? Is that what he's doing?
He does.
Okay.
He has like a police scanner so he can go see. And he's been noticing that the crimes for missing people or dead people or whatever fucking people have gone up.
It's going up again.
And it's been 27 years. And he spent the last 27 years, apparently right after the events in the first movie, everybody stopped talking to each other. But he spent the last 27 years researching, preparing for this day, and vowing that he would stay behind because he wanted to, if something happened, gather everybody back. It's kind of consumed him.
Oh yeah, like it's become his life. And I get the sense like he's put off things that he actually wanted to do.
Yeah, like get married.
Kind of views it, he kind of views himself as like doing a service
Yep.
to the town.
But I will say this, and listen, we might be all over the place with this movie. This movie is a long movie. We're not going to take 3 hours to discuss it, like we did with The Thing. But I don't think we need to. But there are some elements in this movie that I think need to be touched on. And Mike is haunted by the death of his parents. And he constantly views himself as being the cause of their death.
Right.
He's been told, and this is a theme in the movie, and it comes back, and it's ultimately, how they defeat it. But they've each been told that they are something, and so that's what they become, or what they strive to like rebel against, right?
Right.
So when you've been beaten down and beaten down and beaten down, and he was told that his parents were crack addicts, like everybody in the town were like, oh, they're a bunch of crackheads, right? Because maybe they were black. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah,
They
he
died in
sees
a
it
fire.
in the he has the newspaper archives out.
Yeah,
It says,
and
like,
when he-
crackheads die in fire.
Yeah, and that's what he reads, and then he sees that, and he sees that, he remembers not doing anything, just freezing, and he could have just opened the door, and his parents would be alive.
He was just too scared.
He views that he's the cause. So that's what has haunted him, and he is staying in Derry, and now he's going to bring everybody back. So we also got the other members of the thing. Bill, okay, he's older now. He's a successful writer.
Yeah,
He's like a
on
Stephen
movie
King
set.
Yeah.
Yeah. His books have been adapted into films.
Yep, and he's
And
like
it's kind of like a running joke that like nobody likes the way his books end.
yeah.
So like the producers of the movie, like, and the director or whatever, they're talking to him like, oh, we need to change. They want to change the ending, and he's like,
Yeah.
no, just do it the way I wrote it.
And his wife is an actress, and
Working on the movie that
Yep.
he wrote.
he's pretty successful. But he gets a phone call from Mike, and it's like as soon as he gets the phone call, he's like, whew. And all of these people forgot Derry and what happened
Yeah.
to them. But as soon as they get that phone call, it's like memory
It pulls
comes
them
back in the form of like nausea or the form of anxiety.
Right.
And they don't know why yet. But Bill gets a phone call. Now, what is Bill haunted by?
Georgie
And his death, and that he could have
Who's
prevented it.
responsible.
Yeah. I don't know the order of everybody getting called, but
I think Eddie's next, and he's like a risk analyst in New York.
Yeah.
And he's like driving down the street, and when he gets the call, he freaks out and he crashes.
Yeah, he like zones out of it. He's like, huh?
And then I think Richie's next. Richie's now a stand-up comic.
Yep.
And he gets the phone call right before he goes on stage, and he's like,
He throws up.
and he goes on stage and bombs. Like he
Yep.
can't even remember the punchline to his first joke.
Yep.
Ben's next. Ben's an architect. It's funny. I like how you mentioned how they brought the kid who played him as a kid for this
Yeah.
scene, because I can picture it now, and I even know what guy it is.
Yeah.
Because when the scene starts, I'm like, oh, there's Ben.
Yep.
And I think that's what they wanted us to think, because he's kind of a bigger guy.
Yeah, that's what.
And then it cuts back to like where Ben lives, and now Ben's turned into a fucking stud muffin.
Yeah. Now, though, when you see the kid that played Ben and the adult version of Ben, who's like this studly, like handsome man, you can see
The
facially.
casting is fantastic.
One of the best things about this movie is the casting.
Yeah, it's perfect. Like, everybody looks like
It
I
could
could
be that
totally see
person.
that person as the adult version of this kid.
Yeah. Well, I'll save Stanley for last. Bev gets a call. Oh, wait a second. 1 second. So Bill, Eddie's haunted by the fact that his mom was like so overbearing, and he was, like I said, victim of Munchausen syndrome. I think I said that in the first one. And his wife is the exact same way. He married his wife.
someone just like his mom.
Yeah, he
Well,
married.
actually, the Stanley, I guess we could save him for last, but his arc actually changes before we even see Bev.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but let's save him for last.
Save. Bev's like a fashion designer, and she was haunted by her father, and him being a pervert
abusive.
and everything, and being abusive. And she's a successful fashion designer, and yet much like Eddie, she married someone just like her dad.
Yep.
And she's in an abusive marriage, and she gets the phone call, and he overhears it. And at first, like, he acts like, "Oh yeah, you do what you got to do," and then he just flips out on her.
Yeah, and he's
And
like, "Who's
he
Mike?"
starts beating her, and it looks like he's gonna rape her.
Yep.
And then she takes off, and then takes her wedding ring off, and like leaves it on the.
She clocks him upside the head with something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
she did her dad.
Yep.
And she takes her wedding ring off and leaves.
Yep.
Stanley and his wife, it seems like they're content just living their lives. It doesn't seem like they have any children. They're planning a vacation. He's doing a puzzle.
Yeah, she just booked it.
Yep,
And he got
she
that
just
last
booked
piece.
a
Well, almost.
vacation. Yep. And he gets the phone call from Mike, and he's like, "Okay, thanks, Mike." And he goes up and draws a bath, and he like remembers something from there's a flashback, but anyway, he comes back to him, and he's slit his wrists, and he's dead.
He's dead in the bathtub.
Yeah.
At first, were you like, "Oh shit, is this real? Did this really happen?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think his character's done. He dead."
Well, I knew what happened to this character
okay.
because
I
of the
didn't
It miniseries
Okay.
back in the day. Richard Masur, by the way, from The Thing, he plays that older version of Stan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think I saw that the miniseries like when it first aired in 1990, and I have not seen it since.
Well, we
So
should
I
do
need
that one.
I need to see it again, because like it would be like watching it the first time. I don't
Yeah.
remember anything.
It's way shorter. It's
Yeah,
like,
isn't the whole thing like 3 hours?
yeah, the whole thing is, I think, 3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
But all of the losers who are adults now. They all go back and converge.
Well, and we also
in Derry.
here was where we find out Henry Bowers is alive,
Yes, Henry Bowers.
and then this is where we get a flashback of him being arrested for his father's murder, and then he's in a psych ward now.
yeah, he's insane,
Yeah,
or they think he's insane.
yeah, he seems insane.
He does. So yeah, and he's gonna break out too. By the way, because Pennywise is basically back, and he needs Henry Bowers to
Needs his help again.
help him.
And Mike knows that Pennywise is back because, and this is like kind of why he convenes everybody. After he hears it on the police scanner, he goes to the crime scene, and he's walking around, and he can see, but others can't, written in blood, like on the wall. It said something. What did it say? I can't remember, but like it was like a warning to him.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember either.
And then he finds a red balloon on the ground.
Yep.
Which is really funny because little story. Last night, my wife and I took my dog to the park, and then we went for a little walk around the park. And at one point, my dog she will pick up anything like garbage or whatever. Like she's all about that. But at one point, she tried to get something. I was like, and I kind of pulled back, and it was a fucking red balloon.
Oh Jesus, were you scared?
I shit my pants, bro. No,
Right then
I
and
was
there.
just like, that's weird. Yeah.
All right, so everybody goes back to the town except for obviously Stanley, who's dead, and they all come to this Chinese restaurant. And it's like slowly but surely they start remembering each other, and they're having this great time. They're drinking sake bombers and they're eating sushi and
Having a good old time.
or whatever. I guess it's a Chinese restaurant, so they're just eating Chinese food and just it's great. I was kind of thinking like, who's paying for this?
Well, they're all pretty successful.
Yeah, I guess. Except for Mike.
Yeah, I would say.
Mike's like, so thanks for coming, guys.
They're like, Mike, you're paying for all this, right? Since you invited us. He's like, oh, I'm a librarian.
Yeah.
So,
You're a successful author. You're a successful architect. You're a fashion designer.
yeah, maybe one of you could foot the
You're a
bill.
stand-up comic.
Yeah, come on now.
Anyway, so they're all eating all this stuff, and then they slowly start to remember. They're like, where's Stan? So they're like, one of us is missing.
Yeah, and there's an empty chair.
They're like, something about Stan. And they're like, well, he's not coming because whatever. And then they start talking about Pennywise and the events that happened in the first movie. And they start remembering little bits and pieces of it. And then they start arguing. And it's like, it's almost like that's kind of what Pennywise wants, is he's pitting them against each other. Yeah, pitting them against each other. So they start arguing, and then they open up fortune cookies at one point, and it spells out like, I guess Stan couldn't cut it.
Yeah, each one of them, their cookie only has one word.
Yeah. And eventually, like I said, they get in a fight, and they are going to leave the restaurant and go back to the hotel, and they're like, I'm out of here. Like, I think Richie's like, fuck this place.
Yeah,
Eddie's
Richie's
like, yeah,
no,
I'm with
not
you.
staying. And Eddie's in the same boat.
So they go to leave, and Bev calls Stan's house to see where he is, because we find out she had a vision from back in the first movie. She said she saw them all when they were older. Well, she saw all of their deaths.
Yeah. And she also, and she knew, that's why when Stanley asked her, like, what do I look like or something like that, she kind of hesitated because she saw him dead.
Yep. So she calls the house, and the wife tells her that he's passed away.
He killed himself, yeah.
So everybody hears this, and they're like, what the fuck? They're like, that's it. We're gone. We're out of here. They go back to their hotel. Mike's like, no, Bill, you got to believe me. Let me go show you something. So Mike takes Bill to his attic room above the library and shows him all the research that he's been doing, and drugs him on like fucking ayahuasca or something. And he has a fucking trip, and
he's tripping balls.
It shows him some basket that gives him visions of like some Native American
Like
culture
ritual or something.
Yeah, that they fought this being like 1,000 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
That part.
Yeah, and shows him like there's a ritual that here's how you can defeat Pennywise, basically.
That part of the movie like kind of loses me.
I was a little bit confused too. Because I didn't catch that he slipped something in his drink until he brought it up. It's like, you put something in my drink? He's like, yeah, I needed you to see. And he's like, and you did, didn't you? And he's like, yeah, I did.
Mike, I don't know. Well, okay, Pennywise kills the little girl that got that stuffed animal at the beginning.
Yeah. Wait, was that the same girl?
Yeah, she had that birthmark.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's at like a baseball game or something like that, and she there's a firefly, and she chases it, very similar to the Georgie scene. And she goes to Pennywise, and she's like, "I'm not talking to you. You're a stranger."
Yep.
And he's like, "Oh, people don't talk to me because I look different."
And because she has that birthmark.
Like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because Pennywise says it first, like trying to get it out of her. So
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh, and then she kind of relates to him, and then sure as shit, he does the same thing. This
eats her fucking face off. Mike has told everybody that they need to find a token to burn in this altar. There's a lot of shit that happens. Like, people want to leave, but then they keep coming back, and they're not going to leave, but they are going to leave. Anyway, he's told everybody that they need to find a token of their past.
From their past, yeah, that has some sort of
burn.
significance so that they can burn it. And I guess that's how the ritual begins.
Yeah. Bill.
And that we all need to split up because each of you need to go collect whatever your token
Again,
is.
We'll talk about this in the review. Okay. So Bill goes back to the storm drain where, he buys that bike. He buys silver. That's the
he
name of
walks
his
by
bike.
an antique store and he sees it in the window. He's like, oh, shit.
And he buys it from Stephen King for $300. Stephen King has a good little bit there I liked.
It was funny. Although I thought Bill was stupid because he's like, Stephen King, isn't he like, oh, aren't you so-and-so? Mm-hmm. Like, he recognizes that he's an author. He's like, yeah. And then he's like, and this used to be my bike. He tells him.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you just argued the price up, dumbass.
Exactly.
Don't tell him it has like personal significance to you.
Yep.
Because he basically says, it's like, oh, well, now the price is like $300. You can afford it.
Yep.
And he's like, you kind of got me by the balls here.
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. King.
Mr. Stephen King. He goes riding by his old house and he sees the storm drain, which Georgie went down, and he sees Georgie's boats down there. What?
Yeah, I thought that too. It's like, that thing would have been destroyed. Like, how much? 27 years has passed?
Yeah. He grabs the boat and he pulls it out of there. Not before he gets grabbed by 1,000 like fucking little hands trying to pull him under.
Yeah.
He grabs the boat. There's a little boy who's like skateboarding there.
Oh yeah, that boy now lives in the house.
Yeah,
that
and
Bill grew up in.
he tells Bill like, "Oh, I hear voices down the sink drain or some shit like that." And he's like,
you need to get the hell out of town.
"Yeah," and he's like, "I got to go to the fair," and Bill's like, "No, don't." Well, the kid goes to the fair. That kid's gonna die later on, by the way. He's got a
pretty gnarly death.
Yeah. Bev, let's see, is it Bev that goes back to her house?
Bev goes to her the old apartment where she and her dad lived, but there's somebody else living there now.
Yeah,
and
an old
she
woman.
finds out from the person that moved in that her dad passed away.
Yeah, but the old woman invites her in for some tea, and so she's like, "You can look around." So Bev looks around, and the place where she hid her cigarettes is like in the floorboards.
Yeah, she had to like pry it away from the wall.
Yep, and she goes in there and she finds that, as well as the postcard that says that shitty fucking poem. So that's her token, I guess. Well, this old woman's not an old woman at all. It's fucking Pennywise. And she grows gigantic with her swinging old woman boobs.
Dude, in my notes, I referred to her as Tit Gollum. She looked like fucking Gollum with boobies.
She does. She does. Yeah. Oh, I should talk about something that happened in the Chinese food restaurant when the fortune cookies like open up and there's like an eyeball and
and then like weird like bugs and creatures and stuff.
Yeah. The reason why I want to talk about that is because that was fucking corny and cheesy looking as all hell. Those visual effects, like the thing that confuses me about this movie is like sometimes they do such good visual effects. And then sometimes it's like nobody fucking cared.
Yeah.
To like
that scene was just weird, but I think it was meant to establish that like now as adults they can still see things that aren't really there.
I understand that.
Like when the staff comes in, they're like, "What are you doing? Why are you smashing this place up?"
I do understand that, but it looked cheesy.
It looked shitty.
Like the special effects look cheesy is the only thing. Okay, so she finds the postcard and then Gollum is going to attack her and she just runs away. She gets out of there and she looks back at the place and she's like, "Oh, fuck this place." Richie goes to the theater where the arcade was.
Oh, dude, you know what we didn't mention in the last episode? Mm-hmm. Did you catch what movie was playing at the theater, like on the marquee?
Oh, Nightmare on Elm Street 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
But the theater now is all boarded up and closed. So
the last movie they played there was You've Got Mail.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But he gets a token from the arcade.
The coin machine, yeah.
Yeah. He puts a quarter in and still gives him a token, I guess. I don't know how that worked. He has
still paying the electric bill.
He has a flashback at this point to him playing at the arcade when he was younger, and this was kind of that in between.
It was right after he and Bill got in that big fight.
Yeah.
In the first one, we do see the arcade scene. We see the start of it.
Yeah. And he's at the arcade, and I think that's even when Bill comes and gets him, is out of the arcade.
Yeah,
Not
maybe.
this particular scene, but he does come and get him out of the arcade. But he's at the arcade, and he's playing Street Fighter against this other kid, and they're having a good time. And then the other kid's like, well, I got to go, or you ran out of money. He's like, well, you can have one of my tokens. You want to play some more? And that kid kind of sees that Henry Bowers is there, and he's like, kind of changes his tune. He's like, why would I want to play with you? You're not my boyfriend. And Bowers is like, get out of here.
Yeah, starts yelling like homophobic slurs and stuff at him.
Yeah. And he's like, my cousin doesn't want to fuck you, or some shit like that. And he basically tells him to leave, and Richie leaves. So this is where we find out kind of like, oh, Richie, is he gay? Is he not? We don't know for sure. But, all that macho bravado that he talks about all the time, like fucking all these women and having a big dick and stuff like that. Well, that's to cover up.
When he has a nightmare, like right after this, or a vision of, there's like a big Paul Bunyan statue in like the town square, and it comes alive, and then it's chasing him. And then Pennywise talks to him. Pennywise like, hey, I know your big secret.
Yeah.
Something like that. So it's like, yeah, okay. So yes, he's gay.
Yes. And we also see him like carving something into the wood.
Oh yeah, we see an R plus.
An R plus.
But we don't see what the other initial
letter
is. Yeah.
That'll come into play later on. So he grabs the arcade token.
When he's talking to Pennywise, when he's like saying like, I know your secret and stuff, doesn't he say like, you want to play Street Fighter? Like he challenges him to a game of Street Fighter. Like Pennywise challenges Richie. But they don't play. I thought that would have been a fun scene of them. Like, he's like, oh, that's cheap. Stop being so cheap.
So that's his token, is an actual token. Ben goes back to the high school, and he has a flashback.
Bev. Like Bev comes into like a classroom, and it's just him, and he's listening to Cover Girl by New Kids on the Block.
Yeah.
And then she's really mean to him.
She's really mean to him, and he's like, that's not her. That wouldn't have been her. But he retrieves out of his wallet that page of his yearbook that he's kept that only she signed.
Yeah.
Eddie gets an inhaler from the pharmacist.
He goes to the pharmacy. He had the easiest one. It wasn't
and then
even
he goes
old.
down into the pharmacy
He
basement.
like went to a prescription, right?
Yeah. And then he goes down to the pharmacy's basement, and he sees the leper. And he starts strangling the leper, and the leper starts like shrinking in his hands as he's strangling it, and then he like snaps out of it.
Oh yeah, and doesn't the leper like barf in his face? And we get like just a 5-second clip of just call me angel of the morning. Like, I thought that was really weird, but I fucking laughed out loud. I thought it was funny.
So did I. There was another part that I laughed out loud at too, and I'm sure it's the same one that you did.
Oh, is it? Yeah. It's coming up.
It's coming up. So they all get their tokens, and they find their old clubhouse, which we didn't see in the first movie, but they had this clubhouse, and they get a token for Stanley, and he brought hairnets to their clubhouse so they could keep spiders out of their hair.
Yeah, because it's like underground.
Yeah. So they grab a hairnet. So they all have their various little tokens now, and Henry Bowers, he's escaped from the hospital because his burnt up dead friend
Adam
Hochstetter
Driver,
comes back and helps him escape and drives him away, like
gives him his knife
back. And Bowers goes to where the losers are all staying in their like bed and breakfast, and he jumps Eddie and stabs him in the cheek.
Yeah, and
through the jaw,
like the blade in his mouth.
Yes,
like, to the side. Oh my god! And he's like, ah, shit, and like Eddie hides in the shower.
And then he pulls the knife out and stabs Bowers.
Yeah, that was pretty badass.
Which is kind of cool that Eddie did that.
Yeah.
Bowers falls out the window, but he's still alive, and he's like, haha, fuck you guys. He like, fucking hate that guy.
He's the worst. And he still has his fucking mullet.
Yeah. I think
somebody makes a joke about it later.
Yeah, I think Richie says something about that,
Yeah,
or Eddie
fucking
does.
mullet off.
And then he goes to attack Mike at the library, and he nearly kills Mike, but Richie saves him and
He like shows up out of nowhere.
impales him.
Yeah, because in the fight, like they knocked over like some stuff that was in the library, and one of them was a hatchet.
Yep.
So Richie like hatchets him in the back of the head.
Yep.
And
He
this is
did.
probably the part that made you laugh, I would assume. Is this the
No, what was it?
when Richie hatchets him and then kills him? He says, "I guess you could say that was overdue." Get it? Because we're in a library. And he can't even finish library, and he just barfs all over the place.
Yeah. No, that did make me laugh, but there's another part.
All right.
So they get back to Bill, and Bill has followed, or actually, while all this is going on, Bill followed that little kid to the
fair.
And they're in like this room of fucking mirrors, this fun house. And he's in between that kid, and the kid's like, "Why are you following me?" He's like, "You got to get out of here." I'm a pervert.
That's why. Oh.
But he's pounding on the glass. He's like, "You got to get out of here." And the kid's like, "Fuck you, old man." And then like on the other side of another piece of glass is Pennywise, who like has
the kid
this.
turns around and sees him. He's like, "Oh,
He's like
shit."
licking the glass with his long ass tongue. He's all. And then Pennywise starts bashing his head to break the glass.
To get to the kid.
And Bill's like, "Come on, come on, come on."
And he's trying to break the glass on the other side.
But he can't. And Pennywise finally gets the kid and kills him.
Eats him real nice.
Yeah.
Right in front of Bill.
And Bill's all, well, I guess I'm just going to leave.
I'm 0 for 2. I felt bad for Bill because, like, man, I thought that was going to be like his like redemption of like for Georgie. He was like, no, this kid's also going to die.
The kid's dead. Now, was it just Bill seeing something?
No, I think that was real.
You think it was real?
Yeah, that kid got eaten.
So why didn't everybody think like Bill did it? Like he's been following this kid
got the
around.
hell out of there.
You know, someone's
but nobody
ring.
saw him following that kid.
You know, someone's ring doorbell was on, and they saw it.
Yeah.
There's a camera set up
There's
somewhere.
a street camera or something that got that interaction by the
It
storm
is
drain.
dairy though. Maybe it's because it's just a podunk town. They don't have anything.
I don't know.
All their memories are restored now. They've all like accepted what they're going to do. The group gets together and they're going to go down into the sewers. And they have this fucking Native American basket and this fucking tribal ritual that they're going to do.
Because just like the first one, Bill initially is like, I don't want anybody else to get hurt. I'm going all by myself. And so he goes, but the others all follow.
Yep. So this is a funny scene. There's quite a bit of humor in this, but they have that basket and they all throw in their tokens, right? And they say what it is. And then like, what was it? I don't remember who threw in theirs first, but they're like, that's not going to burn. Like,
Yeah. Because one of the tokens for Beverly, or no, who had the rock?
Mike's token is the rock. It's the rock that they used to save him from getting beat up by Henry Bowers. It's the one that Bev threw and hit Bowers right in the head. But I think someone threw in an actual, like, the arcade token when Richie throws that in.
Yeah.
And Eddie's like, that's not
your
going to burn.
token is an actual token. You went really literal, didn't you?
And then the rock, and he's like, that's not going to burn. It's not. I'm just saying, guys, that's not going to burn. And then he throws in the inhaler, and they're like,
that's toxic.
it's just a funny little moment.
Yeah, then the
there.
rock, like, oh, that's also not going to burn.
They throw in everything, and they light it on fire. They start chanting, like, light go away into dark, or some shit like that.
Well, before they even do the ritual, though, Pennywise, like, attacks, and this is where we got that crazy house scene.
Is that before or right? That's right.
I think it's before.
No, that's right after, because that's when they all split after the balloon blows up, and they all split off.
Maybe.
And they all have those weird nightmares.
I can't remember. Maybe.
I was gonna get to that, but
okay.
So they do this thing. The lights go down into the basket. They cover the basket, and they're like, "Oh, everything's fine." But then all of a sudden, like a giant red balloon, starts coming out of the basket.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, fuck."
And scaring everybody away, and it blows up. And they all go running. And they all kind of split off. Like Bev and Ben go off together one way. I don't know where Mike goes, but I know it's Mike and Bill go off in another way, and Eddie and Richie go off together, and they're like, they have these doors that they have to pick on which door to go into. Anyway, they end up back in that old house. You're right. And I don't know, maybe this did happen before, maybe it did happen after. It doesn't really matter. But they see Stanley's head talking to them.
Yeah, it's like in a refrigerator first, right? And then it like rolls out. And it's like,
it rolls out
and it starts like, shut the fuck up, Stanley.
Yep. But then it grows spider legs, and Richie goes, "You got to be fucking kidding." Did you catch that?
Yes, dude, I loved it.
That's the part
like,
that
when the legs came out, I was like, "Oh, are they ripping off the thing, or is this just like an homage?" And then when he said that, I was like, "Okay, I'll let it slide."
Yeah, it's an homage.
Yeah.
So that was one of the greatest scenes of the movie, by the way, is when he goes, "You got to be fucking kidding." I was like, "That's perfect." They all split off, and then Pennywise is slowly like getting at all of them. Again, it's like getting at what they fear the most. Bev sees her dad and the perverted fucking pharmacist and the bullies at school. Ben is being told that he's fat and a loser, and he'll always be fat and a loser. Richie is getting picked on for whatever he's getting picked on, and all that shit's happening.
And Pennywise too is like, "Hey, Mike, did you tell them? Did you tell them about like the ritual from a couple thousand years ago? Did you tell them that it didn't work?"
Yeah.
And they're all kind of like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't tell you guys, but I thought if we all believed like that we could defeat it, that it would work."
Yeah.
And Pennywise is like, "Ha, dumbass."
Yeah. And so they're all pissed off at Mike. Well, anyway, they all converge back into like that same kind of area from the end of the first one where everybody was in the deadlights. And Richie's like, "I'm going to do this again," or whatever. And he's like going to charge the battlefield. And then he gets caught in the deadlights right away. And he starts,
Yep.
Eddie saves him. He comes up and like kills him, and he's like, I think I got him. And Pennywise gets flung back or whatever. And Pennywise is now like a giant spider.
Oh yeah, because Beverly gave Eddie, because Eddie was afraid, he didn't want to go, and she's like, "Use this, like it kills monsters if you believe that it does."
Yep.
And he's like, "Okay," so like he throws that, he like javelins that shit right at Pennywise.
And Pennywise
and it does appear that like he killed him.
Yep. And he's telling Richie, he's like, "You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. I think I killed him, guys. I think I killed him." And then right through the back comes a spider claw.
Yeah, like impales him.
Just
right
impaling Eddie, and he's all, and he gets thrown to the side. Eddie tells everybody, like, as he's dying, they're like, "What do we do?" And he's like, well, he says through a series of conversations, but he says, like, when I was choking the leper in the basement, it got smaller as I was like yelling at it.
Yeah, as I was less afraid.
And they're like, "Oh, okay." So they go back to Pennywise, and they basically do what was done to them their entire lives. They're berated. They tell him,
and because like Eddie basically tells him like if it has to obey the rules of like whatever it's kind of inhabiting. So if you can get it small, you can basically just like crush him.
Yeah, and they're like, "You're nothing. You're just a clown." And he's like, "No, I'm scary." And they're like, "No, you're not." And there's this, and it's like as they like slowly start berating it, making it believe that it is what it is, which is kind of symbolic of what happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're overcoming it, and they're just doing it to Pennywise, this innocent fucking Pennywise. No, I'm just kidding. They're being the bullies. No, but
leave him alone.
And he shrinks down into like this. He looks like the fucking ginger dead man.
He does.
Like,
yeah, he totally does. Like, he turns into Gary Busey.
Turns into fucking Gary Busey. Mike reaches in and grabs his fucking heart. Galima. They all grab a hold of the heart, and they all squeeze it and kill it.
Squeeze it together.
Yeah. And it's dead.
Yay.
And then the whole house starts imploding, and they get out of there, but they have to leave
It's
Eddie's
very
body.
poltergeist.
Who calls Eddie's wife?
Oh yeah, to tell him, hey. Your
husband's dead.
Sorry. Also, we also defeated Pennywise. It's like Pennywise, like, the dancing clown.
Yeah.
What?
He must have told you. No, because he forgot
No.
everything. Oh, fuck.
Well, he's dead. The clown and your husband, just to be clear. Both.
Yep. So, bye.
Bye now.
They all go back to the old swimming hole, jump in their skivvies,
Yeah, clean off all that blood.
and they mourn Eddie for about 4 seconds.
Oh, and all the scars on their hands disappear
Yeah.
from when they did the blood ritual.
And now some time has passed, and Bill is writing a new book, basically the story of what happened to them. And they can remember everything now.
Yeah.
They don't forget. After they leave Derry, they don't forget. Mike is leaving Derry, starting his own life. Ben and Bev are on a yacht,
Yeah, they got
making
married.
out all the time, talking poetry.
Talking about poetry.
And Richie goes back to the bridge where he was carving his initials before R plus, and we see that the plus, the letter we didn't see him carve, was E.
Aw, he loved Eddie.
So he was in love with Eddie, and that's why he was fucking with him all the time.
And then they all get letters, or at least,
Yeah, they all do.
yeah, and see they all do, right? From
Yep. Stanley.
Stan.
And he
Yeah.
wrote it right before he killed himself. And his wife must have been like, well, I got to put these in the mail.
Yeah. I like he basically said like, hey, you may look at what I did as like a selfish act, or that I was too afraid, and I was afraid, but I also knew that you guys needed to be united, and I kind of thought this might be a way for all of you to fight it together.
Yeah, and he's like, I wouldn't have been any good because I wouldn't have been there for you guys.
Yeah, he basically said like I was the weakest.
Yep. I'm the weakest person. And that's the end of the movie. Okay. And we clipped through that pretty quick. This movie was nearly 3 hours long. That's my biggest problem with this movie is how long it is.
It's long. Yeah.
My other problem is the special effects. I don't think they're that great in moments. In some moments, I think they're phenomenal. In other moments, I'm like, oh my God.
See, and that's how I feel about the first one. And I think this one's very similar. Like some of the effects are really good, and some of them are kind of lousy.
Yeah. The de-aging and the added scenes after these kids are now like fucking 25 years old, you know, we're still the same. You know, it just didn't work for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Again,
that didn't bother me.
If we're looking at this as a movie and not as coming from the source material, there's a lot of shit you could have cut out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that whole Native American ritual thing didn't need to be in there. You could have had it be like, we just got to go back down there and fight Pennywise, and just cut out that whole subplot. Bill getting drugged and Mike taking him
tripping balls.
Yeah. And them doing that whole ritual and shoving shit into this basket and all that kind of stuff. No, they could have just gone down there and had all those encounters that they had.
Yeah.
What else was there? Oh, Henry Bowers. Like, why bring him back just to kill him almost immediately?
Yeah, I expected him to be kind of a villain that was going to have a big showdown at the end.
Yeah, and there was nothing. I mean, yeah, it was kind of satisfying to watch him die, but it was just as satisfying to watch him die in the first one.
Right.
Or just
Even
show him
more
as
so.
being insane
Because he
forever.
died like being a bully.
Yeah.
And yeah, Mike being the one to kick him down the well.
What else was there that I thought could have been different? Like, I don't know. I don't know enough about the source material to say like, oh, this was in there, so that's why they kept it in there. But there was just stuff that you could have pared it down a lot. But
Yeah.
this is why this movie should have been made as one movie instead of two movies. And the reason is because in the book it goes flashback, flash forward, flashback, flash forward, right?
And they could have done that.
If you would have done that, then you could have filmed it all at the same time. So you could have paralleled stuff and written it as one cohesive script instead of going, well, we'll do the kids parts first because Stranger Things is really popular, right, guys? So we'll do the kids
There's
stuff.
more money in doing it the way that they did it.
Yeah. Well, obviously there's not, because this movie grossed like almost half of what the first one did.
Yeah, but still. But I mean, had they done it as one movie, do you think it would have made as much as the two combined? Probably not.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Well, they could have done it as two parts of one movie. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and still filmed it all at once.
Yes.
Matrix style.
Yeah, instead of doing like, oh, we'll just do the young stuff here and the old stuff here, they could have blended it together and had it young and old. And that's what the director wants to do. He wants to edit it that way for an ultimate
that'd be cool.
experience. Yeah, I think it would be cool too. I don't know if I'd watch it, but
So you're still going to get your filter scenes.
yeah.
Your Snapchats.
My Snapchats. There's a couple other things that I didn't like about this movie, and I know a lot of people probably talk shit about this movie, but I did like was I liked Bill Hader.
Yeah,
I liked all the cast. I thought they all did a good job. We talked about the casting being like one of the better things of this movie. I think the casting was phenomenal. I liked the comedy in this movie. I thought there's like some really funny scenes. Mm-hmm. But there's other stuff that I like too. I'm going to give it 3 Pamela Voorhees Heads.
Okay.
I'll be interested to hear what you think because you have never seen this movie.
And we're pretty close on this one too. I actually really liked it, and I think I said this at the beginning. I had heard mostly negative things about this movie, so I really wasn't expecting to like it, and I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I thought the casting was perfect as far as like the people who played the adult versions, like looked like them, acted like them. Like I thought it was very convincing. And I agree with you. I think this one is really funny, maybe funnier than the first one. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's got a lot of good humor. It's got some scares. This one's less reliant on jump scares, but they're still there.
Yeah.
But I agree. Too long. There were things that could have been cut. At times there were things that were repetitive. There's still some stuff that I don't quite understand. Like Mike calls all of them agree to come back, and they say things like, "It's starting again, isn't it?" Yes. Mm-hmm. And then they come back, and then they act surprised when he tells them what's going on. Like,
yeah.
And I get like, okay, you lose some stuff, but they were compelled to travel this great distance to their old, like, I just thought that was a little
that's the
weird.
Supernatural part of it, right? Like, we got to just kind of forgive that because it's like,
I just thought it weird. It's weird they initially acted like they knew what was going on and then got there and acted like they didn't.
I think that was just instinct or something.
Yeah, I guess that they just felt compelled or like drawn towards going there. Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a little odd.
They were bonded by the blood.
That's true. It's that blood pact.
Yep. Like the one we made.
Yes.
But it was poop. But it was poop instead.
It was our feces.
Poop and semen.
Yes. All mixed into a stew,
a paste.
if you will. A paste. A gumbo of sorts.
We made paper mache dolls out of it. Of each other. Still have mine.
It's right here. It's just out of frame. But I really like this movie. I'm going 3.5 on this one.
All right.
Not as good as the first one, but still good.
We're the same distance off.
Yes.
From each other. That's because you're too nice to people. So what is that? 3.25 overall?
Yep. So 1 head lower.
1 head lower than the last one. So as a whole, the 2017-2019 movies,
the saga,
if you will, is 3.75. Pretty good.
Pretty damn good.
That's pretty good. Invest the time. Invest the 18 days it takes to watch it.
Set aside a day.
That would be brutal to watch the whole thing in one day. I don't think I could do that.
I couldn't. That'd be too much.
That's too much.
Too much Pennywise.
But hey, I don't know.
Oh, also, the second one I felt like had more Pennywise in it. And it probably did because it was longer.
It did. Well, yeah, I had no choice.
But we also see Pennywise without makeup at one point.
We do.
That's kind of interesting.
Bill Skarsgård. We didn't talk much about him, his performance of Pennywise. He did okay. He did good.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, I liked him in Barbarian.
Oh, yeah. We'll probably do that movie at some point.
Point.
I liked him in that movie as well.
It's too new.
Yeah.
It's too new. I don't feel like
fresh.
Yeah. But
I'm going to let that simmer a little bit.
Yeah. Go see it though. I recommend it.
Yeah, HBO Plus or
Max.
HBO Max.
Whatever the fuck it's called.
Whatever the hell it's called.
HBO.
Yeah. There you go.
If you have any thoughts on it, boy, we cruised through that one. See, we talked about it in less time than the movie took. I mean, I guess that's true with every movie that we do.
But still, we deserve praise.
We do. If there's any comments that you have about it, or if you have any suggestions for future movies you'd like us to review, you should contact us. How can they contact us, David?
Yeah, and Twitter, Facebook, the Slasher app, TikTok, YouTube, Hive. Search the Swearwolves on those platforms. On Instagram, search the Swearwolves podcast. You can go to our website, theswearwolves.com. You can email us at contact@theswearwolves.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 623-282-1851.
So for the Swearwolves this week, I'm Bret.
I'm David.
End of this podcast is long overdue. Huh?